Obviously, I'm not a guitar player. This is Joe Satriani's guitar from the Elephants of Mars tour. Now, I love playing music with Joe, and it's not just because he's a brilliant guitarist, musician, and writes incredible songs. It's because he's a wonderful human being. And the ripple effect of that affects everything and everyone around him. I could go on and on about how amazing Joe is. Right now, I'm on an 8-week tour in the U.S. with Joe and Steve Vai and loving it. So if you're into seeing Joe and Steve shred, go to Satriani.com to see if we're performing in your city. Now, the first time I ever played with Joe was when I auditioned to make a record and tour with the amazing Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones. I remember walking in and I was so excited and nervous. I set my drums up real quick and I started playing this funky beat. And I remember Joe turning around, he had an afro back then, looking at me like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And I just took over. I started playing, but then Mick started dancing, doing his thing. I got the gig, but I couldn't do it. Mick kept changing the dates, and eventually I went on tour with John Mellencamp. Man, I was so bummed. The next time I played with Joe was when I subbed for Chad Smith, the Red Hot Chilli Peppers drummer, for the 2012 Chickenfoot tour. Now, Chickenfoot is a supergroup consisting of badass musicians Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony from Van Halen, and Joe Satriani and Chad Smith. Now, Chad had to go back to his day job with the Chilli Peppers, so he recommended me to sub for him. One day I get a call from Sammy Hagar. "Kenny, it's Sammy Hagar." I said, "Wow, man, what's up, man?" He says, "Chad said you're the guy to replace him for this Chickenfoot tour." I said, "Dude, I don't need to do this," but he says, "You're the guy, and I only want to do it if it's fun." I said, hold on. I said, "Chad hits the drums hard, I hit the drums hard. Chad's funky, I'm funky. Chad rocks, I rock. Now, Chad's funnier than me, but I'm better looking. So it's kind of equal." I said, we should just hang out and see if it's going to work. Anyway, we were laughing about all that, and we never could hook up. So I just went to the first rehearsal, and they all checked me out. And the first day we played this song called Bigfoot, which was on the Chickenfoot 2 record. And as soon as I started playing, I immediately looked at Joe because his tone and his feel was unbelievable. I mean, he locked right into my hi-hat. I think the most important part of the drum set is the hi-hat. It's like the click track, and it's usually locks up if you have a guitar player or anybody playing rhythm, and it's playing with the hi-hat is playing, you gotta lock those two things up. And when they do, everybody goes and locks up to that. Joe's feel was unbelievable. I was completely blown away, besides his tone and his parts. Anyway, touring with Chickenfoot felt like I was in Led Zeppelin and Van Halen all at the same time. Well, come on. Nothing wrong with that. We toured through Europe and in the USA, and it was a blast. Now let's fast forward 6 or 7 years. In 2019, Joe invited me to be part of a power trio on the Experience Hendrix Tour. Me, Joe, and badass bass player and singer Dug Pinnick from King's X. And we played 5 Hendrix songs on that tour in our own unique way. Now the thing is, and I was rehearsing right here with Joe in my studio, I said, "Joe, look at, Mitch Mitchell, the drummer on that first album, Are You Experienced, was improvising all over the place. And he was a jazz drummer first, then became a rock drummer." I said, "Do you want me to play like that, or do you want me to keep it more straight?" Or he says, "No, dude, do whatever you want. Kick my ass." Well, he unleashed the lion. I definitely kicked his ass. It was phenomenal. We were like improvising and jamming like I remember doing in the 60s. In 2020, Joe asked me to record drums on his Shapeshifting record, which was brilliant, and then go on tour. And we made the record, but unfortunately, we didn't get to go on tour because the pandemic. However, the cool thing was Joe called me up and said, "Hey, listen, let's make another record." So we did immediately. Right here in my studio, I did it, which became his Elephants of Mars record. And we did eventually tour, promoting both records at the same time, in the USA for 10 weeks and in Europe for 10 weeks. And in between the US and European tours, Joe had us, his band, be the band for all the artists in his G4 guitar camp for 1 week in Las Vegas, featuring Steve Lukather, Steve Morse from the Dixie Dregs Deep Purple, Peter Frampton, Eric Gales, Mateus, and many more amazing great guitar players. Now this year, as I already mentioned, I've been with Joe on his G3 tour, Monsters of Rock cruise, and now the Satriani and Vai tour. Check out Joe's episode on my podcast, The Kenny Aronoff Sessions, on my YouTube channel, Kenny Aronoff Official, and subscribe. We discuss how Joe played football as a kid and loved it, but after hearing this guy Jimi Hendrix play guitar, decided to quit football and playing the drums to devote his life to the guitar. I think he made the right decision. Joe is an example of something I called RPS. Repetition of any skill is the preparation for success. Joe has definitely become successful. Check it out.